Any public comments on study session related items? Nobody? Okay. We will move to a discussion on the amphitheater. Mark Sandstedt, the Manistee Community Amphitheater Foundation.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I think, acquainted with most everyone, I think, but nonetheless, I'm Mark Sandstedt.
Hi, Mark.
My wife and I own MS Creative, a local marketing firm, and I'm also the general manager of WMTE, the 1015 radio. So we keep ourselves pretty active in the community, and I've kind of been waiting for a project, and here we are. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of get out in front of what we have going on. I think you're going to be excited when I share what's happened here in the last 30 days or so. Brief history, there's been a amphitheater plan in the wind for many years now. That, if you remember, came out of the success that the Salt City Rock and Blues group had in raising some funds quite by accident. They had that Red Apple Road reunion and 2,000 people showed up and they raised a bunch of money and they didn't know what to do with it. If you remember, they donated it to getting the lighthouse finished. And then they had subsequent concerts and raised some more money and they're like, well, let's build an amphitheater. And that's kind of what sparked that project. Well, the scope that was envisioned was probably a little larger than our community could support. The city, as you may be aware of, commissioned a feasibility study, came back that at that scope, it wasn't something that could be supported. So basically, I want to give a lot of credit to the Salt City Rock and Blues group because without their efforts, we wouldn't be where we are today. And they're going to be very involved moving forward. In fact, what has happened is a new 501c3 is being formed. We've had our organizational meeting. It's the Manistee Community Amphitheater Foundation. Paperwork has been filed with the state. Very excited. We have like a super group of people involved, led by our president, Ryan Biller. If you know Ryan, he's the band director at Manistee High School, also the music director of the Manistee Community Band, and he might be 24. It's awesome. He's a young guy. Our vice president, Bob Ogilvy from Salt City Rock and Blues. He's got an executive position on the board. Treasurer will be Noah Cameron from the Forest Trail Music Festival and the Music Sparks meeting and community at large. Myself as the secretary, and then our trustees are Laura Ortiz from the Ramsdale, Tom Volkema from Salt City Rock and Blues, Bryce Cameron, our community at large, Steve Grocock, who's a board member at the Ramsdale and the Shoreline Showcase, Tim Scully, who puts on the Shoreline Showcase, and Tony Jabuta, community at large. So those people all collectively represent some pretty awesome experiences, resources, capabilities, networks, and whatnot. So we're very preliminary in this, but in talking with Bill, I want to be out ahead of it. And whatever we do moving forward will be in lockstep with whatever the city's master plan is for First Street Beach. We want to put a square peg in a square hole. We want to leverage grant money, whether that's natural resources, trust fund money, or wherever that money comes from. We want to put this project in the best position to be successful. One of the cool things, Bryce Cameron lives down in Ohio, and he obtained construction drawings of a facility that would be very much on scale for what we envision. It's really more, again, we're not ready to start that phase yet, but what these construction drawings will do will allow us to get some bona fide cost estimates on what a facility of this nature would cost. So obviously that's what it comes down to. In the end, this is going to be on city property. It's going to be a city asset. We've got to have a plan to manage it. That's all down the road. But right now, I'm just happy that we are in a position to form a new group, approach this with a clean slate, open eyes, open minds, and really, I think, complete our beach with an amphitheater. It would really take us as the Hampton, it just takes us up a notch. Right now, the shows that are staged down there are quite cumbersome to pull off. There's not adequate power. There's all kinds of challenges to do shows on a larger scale down there. But our goal is to have our corporate affairs and bank accounts in place by the 1st of April, and then some soft fundraising this spring with a public campaign fully in place by summer. With bona fide plans and timelines, and we'll be meeting monthly. We'll be assigning committees. We're going to be a very active and proactive group. So really not a whole lot right now to share. Again, we're just organizing, but I will be more than happy to come back and keep you apprised as we make progress and hit some benchmarks. And it's exciting. It's going to happen. I'm positive of that.
Do we have any questions?
Mark, would it be possible to get someone from the parks on that monthly meeting?
Absolutely.
1 or 2 people, because the beach is a park, and they've been very involved in the beach master plan, and so thank you, yeah.
100%.
We have a meeting tomorrow night, so would it be probably appoint 2 people?
We do too. So what I will do is make sure that that gets put on our agenda.
Okay.
And we would welcome that. We want, it doesn't work if we don't collaborate.
Exactly.
And we are going to be nothing
Out
but
in the
above
open.
board and
Yes.
open, and that's
we'd
the
like-
only way it can go forward.
Okay, if we could get 2 people on that, we'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark.
What size crowds do you visualize attending these
Well,
events?
You know, if you think about, are you familiar with the band shell down in Ludington at the waterfront park?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, it's a band shell bathroom facility with a large open space. They do the same jazz series that we do on Tuesday nights that might draw a couple hundred people out on a regular basis. They do Rhythm and Dunes that draws out 2,000 or 3,000 people. So I think, you know, the largest crowds they've had for Labor Fest with Here Come the Mummies was around 2,000 people. So I don't think more than that. And I envision that there will be a blend of free events and ticketed events. Whatever that space, whatever shape that takes, it would have to be a secured area so that you could have a ticketed event if you chose to. And that may be a revenue stream as well, having ticketed events or benefit concerts or whatever. But then the Tuesday nights are sponsor supported and free to the public. So that's important too. It can be a wedding venue. There could be community karaoke. There could be open mics. It could be endless once the venue is there.
Mark, I saved the article when it came out in the paper, and then I've got the plans that they had sent out to everybody, different venues around the country.
Yep.
And now you guys have reduced it down, and I've got that, I thought I had it attached here. What do you feel is gonna be the size, amount of a ticket, or the size of this? I mean, I know you reduced it once so far.
Well, again, I think you probably would have to look at it in phases because you're going to have some different assets involved. You're going to have the stage proper. There has to be some supporting buildings, whether that's for a green room for the artists or concession areas or merchandise areas. You're going to want to have some, you know, adequate space so that when you put a show on, you're providing the facility that can accommodate those shows. But, you know, I think that's part of this moving forward is, you know, if you envision a band shell, you know, not an amphitheater, not a big, you know, not a big overdone, not Interlochen or Meyer Gardens, but a band shell, you know, a community band shell, a stage that's covered that can accommodate the Scottville Clown Band or the high school band or the community band. You know, you want to be able to have, you know, a group on stage. That would be a big asset for the community to have that. So I don't know, Jim, to be honest, exactly what that would be, but I think the plans that I've seen are very modest, and I think that we could get a pretty good estimate on construction costs with the drawings that we have, and that is going to be one of our first tasks, is getting a ballpark, because we have to know what our target is.
I saw the picture that you guys have sent out, the last one. And where did you get that, down Ludington or something?
Nope, that was Bryce. He's a very charming young man. His dad is here and can attest to that. He made a connection. It's down in Tiffin, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I was just in Fremont over the summer, and they have a similar band shell in their city park downtown. And it's, you know, it's not elaborate by any means. It's adequate. It's you know, pleasing visually, architecturally. It's built to last. It's a structure, but it's not a behemoth of a structure that's going to be a real burden to maintain and operate.
Because I was wondering, to me, I didn't think it was as a band show when I saw that.
No.
It looked kind of weird.
Well, it was a concept,
Yeah.
and that concept is something that is in the past and looking forward now.
Are you still anticipating putting up the cement bleachers like they talked about? Or the
There's
chairs?
I'm not going to anticipate anything right now because we're not there yet.
But then you wanted to have bathrooms put up.
Absolutely,
think,
yeah. And that's where the phasing comes in, bathrooms, landscaping,
Those were about 200,000 or something.
Sure,
They were
sure.
quite expensive.
And again, maybe the city has a need for bathrooms down there anyways, so maybe, again, we need to leverage, we need to all be rolling the same way on it and be open-minded as to what can really work for the community.
Where are you thinking, Mark? What part of?
We are at the mercy of the master plan right now. We are not predisposed to anything. I know that initially there's been several areas talked about, and I'm not akin to any of those other than let's put it in the best place where it's going to work the best for everybody.
Mark, I'm connecting with the thoughts of my fellow council members, and I'm just really excited about the possibility of having a place for everyone to enjoy music that's handicap accessible.
100%.
Right now, our music venues in the city are wonderful. We have great musicians of all different varieties. Sometimes it's a challenge for people in wheelchairs or with walkers to really get there safely and be able to get to a bathroom. So the list of people that you listed off are from like every little piece of Manistee, whether they're part of a big band program or they just like to jam in the backyard, and they know our community, and they know not to have something that's going to block our park space, but really integrate with our park space and make it accessible for everyone.
Certainly.
That's a celebration right there. Thank you for putting this together, and I know we're all eager to see plans.
Yep.
And but I'm going to hold any questions until April.
Yeah.
But April 1st.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and
Okay.
we'll certainly know more. If anybody has any questions and wants to reach out, Bill knows how to be in touch with me. I'm easy to track down and easy to get a hold of, and we will definitely keep you in the loop because you are a partner as far as I'm concerned on this project moving forward. And we're just excited by the collaboration that is in front of us right now.
What time is your meeting tomorrow?
Our meeting tomorrow night is at 6 p.m. in the basement of the Ramsdale.
Okay.
And you're welcome to come. Like I said, we're just getting started, so tomorrow we're going to set some goals and some target dates and talk about some committees and, look at what's next. But until we have our affairs in order, we can't really get too far ahead of ourselves. So first things first.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to mention kind of a sneak peek into the beach master plan, just to follow up on Councilmember Lasky's point. There are a couple locations that we're looking at. The current location of the Labor Fest over here at the Lions Pavilion, Kite Park, where the beach master, or that amphitheater study took place, and then a new one that's popped up is the second ball field, the one more to the west, as kind of an option now that MCC doesn't play there. We've enhanced this other ball field, so they saw a potential opportunity there. So just kind of a sneak peek, but just to get that thought out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Jefferson School and Sands Park discussion, Superintendent Ron Stoneman and Bill Gamble.
Sounds like a theme of discussing concepts this evening. And just a little background, we've been discussing, Bill and I, and getting some support from Right Side Design to be thinking about the possibilities that exist with these two pieces of property. The purpose, as you can read, establish collaborative planning, allowing Manistee Area Public Schools and the City of Manistee to optimize land holdings to align with the needs of students and the interest of the community. I won't go through each of these, but just take a minute for yourself. Again, this is not a proposal, just a conceptual conversation. We've reviewed our agreement with the Sands family and to see how that would work. And I think within the existing agreement and potentially working with the Sands family, I think we're in a pretty good place. As you can see, this is a potential thought for Sands Park. We're going to have 400 to 500 or more students in the Manistee Elementary there. And I know the covenant that the Sands family had in writing really focused on the needs of our children in the community. So ideally, this piece of property would be focused on their needs and how we can enhance their outdoor and recreational experiences. And not a lot of per se development here, but you can see a walking track that is kind of around the circumference of the property, and some area. The ball diamond is removed so we can put some age-appropriate use to the fields there.
So given our current arrangement, right now, the city maintains Sands Park, given the investment that MAPS has made to create the new elementary school there. We kind of look conceptually at Jefferson, kind of what the future of that holds, and then what the future of Sands would be. And as he stated in the deed restriction, it does give MAPS the first priority of use of that Sands Park. So that was kind of a concept we were kind of looking into. Mr. Stoneman's on the Sands Park Control Board, as well as Mr. McCula, and also, I believe, a board member from MAPS as well.
Jim Thompson from the school.
So the thought was, conceptually, Sands Park, if the school were to meet the needs of the elementary school, what would that look like? So that was kind of the first blush take of what it could be if for discussion. And then we were kind of discussing if we were to take over responsibility in terms of maintenance and future development over at the Jefferson site. So kind of swapping that, that responsibility of maintenance between these two areas, leaving the existing playground in place. There's been a lot of discussion about pickleball, leaving the remaining parking lot. And then you'll see at the top that building footprint of Jefferson School could potentially be single-family home. So that was kind of conceptually what we wanted to discuss here. And Ron, I don't know if I left anything out.
No, just describe this a little bit. The lots above on the yellow, they're both lined for R1 and R2, yet to be determined. That would be a flexible situation that it's zoned for R2. It could be R1.5. We've discussed that in the past, but that's a determination that we'll work with the entities on. So back to the conversation, bringing the land bank in to help us take that building down, and then the property, all of it, would be on the land bank's books, and then it would be broken out. The recreational component of the property would be broken out for the city use. And you see the red line going through that playground area. There's some utilities there, and that does make a good spot for green space because of the utilities that exist on that portion of the property. There's a water line and I think a sewer line that goes through that area too. So back when we talked about this a few years ago, we always thought that there could be a combination of things that occur on the property that benefit several entities. And I think this concept feeds to what we were thinking and looking at for the property. And obviously, this is a concept conversation. We have recreational stakeholders to discuss with, and you can see that you are the top of the list of that. Land Bank Authority on the 21st, 2 o'clock. will be their meeting, and we'll go through and share the same exact information. And the Board of Education has a study session on the 22nd. Then you can see the rest of the list of engagement of entities to share this concept with, and see if there's an interest for us to work together and develop maybe a proposal for you to review, where we think we can answer the questions and the details that you'll be looking for related to a proposal. But we just really wanted to share a concept this evening and maybe get a little just feedback on that, and if you feel this might be an interest of the city to venture into, that we would continue to do our planning and work on this. Bill, anything else?
Thanks, Ron. No, I think that was just kind of wanting to get feedback and understanding this is the first time it's being rolled out, so obviously welcome to send any comments to me at a later date, or just we can discuss a little bit here today.
Okay, and Katie's from Land Bank here today.
You have a question, Lainey?
Well, I guess I'm a little disturbed that tonight I've seen 2 presentations, and each one of them is eliminating a baseball field. So I'm a little surprised, especially in light of the approach regarding Reed's Park. We're eliminating a feeder program for, maybe a future use. That's my first thought.
Understood, and that's been a thing that we've been discussing.
Well, let's put it this way, you guys have been discussing it, we didn't discuss it.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of upset. I think that the Sands Park has been in the Manistee community for a long time. I mean, they put the ice skating ring in winter. And I just feel it's ridiculous to be changing this for Jefferson school property. And I don't know how the people feel up there about having homes built up there or whatever they're gonna be talking about building up there. I just feel that it's a stab in the back of the people of Manistee.
I just question the size of the trade even. It's like that original Sands Park from 1914 included the football field, the old, it was called the Chippewa field back then, the football field, the dog leg, and that was all Sands Park. And in the consideration when it started, Sands Park, the family put on covenants that if we were to use it for anything other than a park, they took that covenant away in 1951. If the city were to choose to use it for something other than a park, it was supposed to revert back to the Sands family. And then in 51, they added the school board, or the school, to the deed. So it was owned by the school and the city. And they took that covenant away. That didn't have to revert back, because by 1951, people were more aware of the need for a community park. And then they turned it over to a Sands Park Control Board, which has worked and has met. But the first consideration in the control board, when they wrote this in 1951, the very guiding, and it's called a guiding role, the first consideration shall be to the school district, which is you, and using said park where such use is necessary to conduct the recreational and athletic program of the public schools. The next consideration in use of the said park shall be given the activities directly conducted by the city or the Manistee Recreational Association. Thereafter, the board shall be the sole authority to establish who shall use said park and playground area by suitable rules. And so I'm just thinking we're downsizing our parks, which when other cities are increasing their parks, like Traverse City's putting millions out now and buying 2 additional parks this year. We turned the Chippewa field, which was used by soccer and football, often on the same day. That old football field is now a parking lot with, asphalt. That's not a park anymore. And then we did remove the tennis courts, which I needed probably to be removed. They were not usable. But then, so that took away the tennis courts activity, and now Jefferson, which has been a neighborhood park since the 50s, and not just a neighborhood, on any given Saturday, it's a community MRA soccer practice, it's football practice, it's used. Then now we're gonna put homes in front of it, and so there's gonna be, and I've never seen this, and I visit many parks, that there's a horizontal park between 2 adjacent homes on I don't know how that would work to have kids playing soccer in your backyard at 9 AM, if that would go over well on those
I'm not
homes.
sure, there's no
Or-
soccer playing field at.
Okay, or pickleball, that might even be worse, so, I don't know, I'm
I'm
just
not-
saying,
I'm
we're
not following.
downsizing the parks, I guess is my
Well,
point.
Actually, we're creating a lot more playing fields here at Sands Park. You'd think of it, if you read the covenant all the way through, the responsibility of payment and upkeep, it would just be switching responsibilities. I can still see.
Well, I think the payment, weren't they supposed to be split? I mean, I saw that in there, that like the liability insurance was split between the school and the city.
Yeah, well, the city maintains it as a park.
Right.
We're saying, we'll do that, and we're just creating more green space, so the green space usage in that area will be greater, not less.
Oh, I already see evidence that we've reduced the green space by putting in a parking lot where there's a football field. So,
I don't think you're looking at that
we try to
correctly. That's
keep
an
the-
existing
yeah.
parking spot.
We try to keep the exact, it's just the elements in Sands Park would change to accommodate the school's needs, it being an elementary school. That was the concept was maintaining the green space at both areas was the concept. So we didn't reduce the size of Sands Park in this concept, so.
But we
I
did
see
by
that.
the parking, by the new
the
big
passing
parking lot up on Sixth and Robinson, which was a football
north
field.
area, okay.
That was a playing field back years ago.
Owned by the school.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
but it was originally owned by Cyrus Park. It was part of that park.
But there's a parking lot because the school owns it.
Now,
Okay.
yes.
has there been any thought through your discussions of actually utilizing the Jefferson School Building for like a community center or anything? Because you could have indoor pickleball rather than, I mean, which would be huge in this area.
Yeah, one of the big reasons Jefferson is coming offline for the district is the building is it's failing itself. New heat, new roof,
I'm aware.
Okay. So cost effectively, it would be cheaper to take that down to build something that would be useful for it.
So comparable sizes for those sections you're proposing, how do they compare?
In terms of acreage, is that what
Yes.
I can get you that number. I don't have that in front of me.
But again, the concept for Sands Park is not necessarily changing that great deal. It would be a park available to the community. During school hours, we'd be utilizing it, and according to the covenant that's already been written, that the district has a priority for its use. And we would have to, we would like to bring the MRA into the fold here, because of the scheduling and the open space and the kids' accessibility from the school. It would be a really good fit for the MRA to be working right in that area where there's 500 students.
And then what about that youth center that's located on the property?
We've talked about that. If that program would like to be continued, then it would continue under the format that it is now. It wouldn't be the district's responsibility. Ice skating, if that is obviously the spot for that, then the agreement would be the city would be able to continue that. Yep. And if reading through the covenant, the responsibility of general maintenance and care, we're saying that we would take that on. But we could still have elements of the Sands Committee and so forth. Travis?
I'm looking at the intersection of Robinson and 8th Street there, where the tennis courts used to be. That's flat, grassy area, and there's a track around it.
That would be the
Okay.
footpath, yeah.
So like where the football field used to be, where it
No.
wasn't that space.
Yeah.
Well, what comparability would that be for, I'm not very good with sports. Is that?
I know that.
I know. Is that football, could you play?
That is our littlest soccer players that you
Okay.
can see 2 fields cut there.
And that walking track would be accessible for pushing a stroller?
Yes.
Handicap accessible, which right now we know is a struggle
Yeah.
at our current schools.
Yeah, and we talked about, honoring the Sands family and doing some documentation posts, like kind of we've done on the River Walk, and maybe some exercise spots or something like that on there. Some schools have access to a walking track, and they do miles and having kids earn certain miles, and they get something for using it, and their distance they walk, they celebrate some milestones and stuff.
I know sometimes when we have to walk around Jefferson on, when the playground is too wet, our kids in wheelchairs and walkers aren't able to go with us because we just don't have a safe place for them to go.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the grade so that it's not too steep where it will hinder that access.
Thank you.
Has anybody walked around and talked to the people that live around there to see what their feelings are with this whole plan?
I think the plan was to talk about it here first. I think that can definitely be part of this in the future. Yeah.
I think they need to be, after all, you went to court and everything with it.
Yeah. These are kind of the first initial meetings, but yeah, it is, we're at that point, we want to discuss it and figure out the best plan for the community for these two. It's a opportunity we don't have very often to optimize two areas that, with that school being redone over there, I think it's, and knowing that Jefferson's moving, this is, we have to figure out what we can do to fully optimize these areas for the public use.
You feel that the school has the first dibs on this? In the operating agreement, it says that the operating between alternatives be cooperation between the Manistee Public Schools and the city of Manistee. So we obviously have the same vote. We got half and half.
I think you're looking at the AAY agreement as the operating agreement.
I got the operating agreement.
Yeah, that's for the AAY building. The deed restriction that Councilmember Lasky read, where she stated that MAPS gets first priority over the use of Sands Park. That's what I'm referring to.
Well, it can be used anyway. You don't have to be changing properties.
And we're not, so it's very odd that we were maintaining Sands Park. So basically the city of Manistee's DPW has been cutting the lawn, doing this for many years. I'm not sure how that started or when, but at some point that was the city that did that, and we continued to do it. And so looking at this, it is kind of, debatable about why we're doing that, and then should we continue? But if we take on the Jefferson property, we definitely maintain that, and if they had programming and they figured out the use over here at Sands, I think MAPS should mow the lawn, stripe the fields, things like that.
So we're here.
So it's more of a swapping of responsibilities.
And which will cost the district more, but it makes sense because we're going, by the covenant, we are intended to use it more. And I don't think the community's losing, I think they're gaining with this idea.
Well, I just feel that they're not gaining because with all the headaches that went on up there with this last deal of going to court and that, a lot of the people are upset. I don't know I never read the article that was put out for what it was going to be used for, but everybody was upset over something. So I never read they had all the signs all over town that.
And the school system has already, I don't think council was notified when that old football field from back in the day that Liz has referenced was turned into a parking lot. That was just done. Nobody was inquired. And right now, it's probably 50-50, the Sands Park, that block. The schools has half and the city has half, which is what the idea was from the beginning.
The school has half, and the school and the city have the other half.
Yes.
Not just the city. It's the city and the school.
Did I say that wrong?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Okay, that's what I meant to say.
Yes.
Yes.
So you guys pay 90% or more of the maintenance of that.
That half.
The half that belongs to both of us. And we're saying, hey, let us do it. If I came with strictly that proposal, you would say, write the check. And that's that's what's happening at Sands Park.
Why is it that you need to take Sands Park? Why can't you just develop Jefferson property?
Because it's adjacent to the 600 kids that are there in that school building. And the Sands covenant said for school use, because there was a middle school and high school there, it was the entity for students.
What are you gonna say, Liz?
No, I think the land would be the equivalent. I think it's the housing that people are questioning.
Well, now we're talking about the
Jefferson,
site.
yeah,
Okay.
if we trade it even is what you're asking, but that housing is gonna throw a whole wrench in this, because, like I said, that park is not your normal park. You know, when you look at this, it's between two residential areas kind of carved out there, and when that exists like that, the homeowners own that, and it's their pickleball courts. But we're saying, oh no, everybody can come in here between that, and that's the part. And I understand why you drew it this way. I don't know if I understand completely the housing thing, because of the existing sewer that came to light after this. When you put out the request for proposals to sell this property originally, that sewer was not identified, and then the homeowner on Cedar, Veeder, had a little issue and realized that his sewer did not run out directly to the center of the street, like most of ours do in the city that connect from your street to the front of your property. His actually, the home on Cedar closest to the park, that's his sewer line there. And so the city would have to do something about those, because I believe one other house at least is connected with that. So that's
if you left
probably
it-
how we chose the park to be there, or whoever drew this,
Yeah.
to not have to move the sewer line. But it wasn't that, oh, this is the best location to put the park between two housing strips.
I think-
It was, I believe, for the sewer line.
So that little park can be accessed from Cedar, and it can be accessed through the existing parking lot that's there on 6th Street.
Right. It's,
The concepts of the homes on Bryant was to kind of follow that footprint of the school property, to put homes where the school footprint was.
I mean, even in our own city, when you think of Mack Park, it's across the street. When you think of, Reitz Park, it's across the street separate. When you think of Red Shamark, it's across the street. And Sands Park has always been across the street. It's not in none of the parks, I don't believe in Manistee, are in one housing development's backyard, let alone two separate housing's backyard. I'm just not even sure about the concept of the housing. I've never quite seen that in any city.
And I think it would be, a vegetative barrier. So it would be across the street from people living on Cedar or from Elm. But yeah, I think generally when you see a park with housing on either side, there's a vegetative barrier that can delineate and kind of keep a separation. But yeah, there are other parks like this, but.
Again, conceptually, I'm sure you'll work with Mr. Gamble about your thoughts and concerns and feedback. Please provide that. And we will continue to meet and consume that feedback and see where we can go.
Bill, is there a timeline? I know because there's construction going on 6th Street and everything else. It used to be, how the school was up high and Sands Park was down low and there was drainage issues and everything else. And we walk the elementary kids by the construction site and they cheer for the diggers but there's been a lot of grade work and a lot of environmental work there. Is there any economies of scale? Is there a timeline issue that we really want to look at that area and its development while the diggers are still there?
I don't think the project related to what's going on now needs to be related to this.
Okay.
And that we can be, we can generate that timeline as we see appropriate collectively.
Okay.
And I think this concept and what goes into that green space these are just concepts at this point. So there's nothing imminent, but I did think we wanted to start discussing this, knowing that the school children are going to be, this fall, are going to be moving over there, so it's, and given all the feedback, I think discussion of this topic for the last couple of years, it's just, I think we're just looking to solve this issue and work with the community. So I think the big thing is kind of getting all the feedback from council, for me, and then kind of going and meeting with these other groups and figuring out how to best approach this.
Anybody else? Thank you, Ron.
A last word. I know, looking at something in a conceptual, that's kind of wow, and a lot at once can generate a lot of, concerns and questions. So I apologize for dropping that weight on you, but we have time so that we can talk and we can work together, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. City property proceeds, Mr. Gamble.
Thank you. It was about a month ago or so, we talked about sales proceeds. There was a past vote on city council to use proceeds to go towards local streets. So absent a new council directive, that's where it would go. So I think I talked to two council members who wanted to see this discussion happen. I was hoping to have the property sales go through. We still haven't closed on the 2 Renaissance lots and also 6th Avenue. The buyer backed out. So, but we kind of had the discussion. This is just kind of an open meeting. Obviously, no decision would be made today. We'd have to do a vote later. But I just wanted to open it up for discussion on, I think we're going to have some other needs come forward over the course of the budget process, but I wanted to give that opportunity to the several council members who brought up wanting to discuss it sooner rather than later.
Go ahead.
So, a suggestion was, right now it goes to roads, sales proceeds, to possibly change that to land sale proceeds, for city-owned land would go to other land purchases for recreational or cultural use for the city residents, changing that. Because we all know, we saw last meeting, how expensive it is to do roads. So it's a drop in a bucket, but we might be able to do some really good things, like man-made lake, thank heavens we got the grant for that. But this would allow us to continue building, open spaces, park, and for cultural or recreational needs. I mean, tonight they did Mr. Sandstead did a thing, what if the city lot, maybe we could even think about buying a parcel that would have better access from an event or something. It just opens a lot of opportunities. So that was the suggestion. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Well, we're sitting here discussing 2 parks. I don't know that we need any more open space
I don't know.
for parks and rec. Cultural, I'm all in favor of. However, in our community, is there a lot of need for that? We have Ramsdale, which is our cultural center as it stands. And until we have more growth in the area, I don't know that more culture is necessary. I agree, the money for roads is a drop in the bucket, but I think we have to, I don't know that I have a suggestion, that's just my opinion on the parks and the cultural. I don't know that we're in need of that as much as we are some other things.
I guess I consider it a draw rather than a need. It's something that people look for when they're selecting a place to live, raise their families. That's all.
The other thing, as an asset to the city, we all know what our dollar is worth now. When you go to the grocery store, we realize that the dollar has devalued in the last, whatever, how many ever years you want to say, 5, 10, 20, 30. But there isn't a home or a land anywhere that has devalued. And the city has the opportunity, when we hold land or have land, we aren't paying property taxes. So to hold land is not a cost to the city. It's almost an investment in many ways. And if you could sell it for something and not sell it for below market value or whatever, maybe that would be okay. But looking 50 years down the road, when you look at towns like Traverse City, they are buying back land that they had at one point owned. I mean, it's like, it's an asset to the community, and maybe we won't be that community, but, you know, we'll probably someday regret that we don't even own that land across from the marina, whether it was for parking or the fireworks or for farmer's market or whatever. But I don't know. Even as an asset to the community, I agree for Laney that I'm not sure land isn't a better asset than,
Roads.
yeah. Roads would be perfect, but the 66 million, or Jeff, whatever it was, we're not going to finance that with selling a few parcels of land.
You know, you talk about culture, all over the place, we got these little bands having, you know, exhibits out on Tuesday night and other nights they're playing all over town, so, I mean, that all adds to it.
I'm reflecting on your comment about Traverse City buying back the land. And it's my understanding that they had so many things to do with the Department of Public Works, with doing the plumbing and they had to tear up a lot of roads to get access to their sewer systems. And it was cheaper for them to buy the land to do that, to make the new connections, than it was to try to offset the cost to the neighborhood people for how long it would take to do all those projects. So, and I may not have the accuracy of that, but I know that's what started that conversation with Traverse City. I do like the idea of investing in roads and keeping infrastructure. I think the presentation by Mr. Makula, it gave us some really big numbers, but also I don't know enough about our budgeting process. There's always an emergency fund. You know, when we talk about those tiny side streets that still need maintenance and filling, the potholes, and I'm wondering, is that the kind of funding that can be used to take on some of those smaller projects while we're maintaining our larger? It's a question about how, if it just goes into the roads budget, or if there's something that we can do to improve access, or to be able to have some discretionary funding for those areas where, you know, we're hearing residents are really struggling with their road conditions, and it's not in our current 5-year plan.
Yeah, because a lot of people are complaining that we're way out to 27, 28 to do roads. We need to let roads done. even if it's small.
Yeah, and it may not be, like you said, it may be a very small amount of money when all is said and done, but we're not taking property off the property tax rolls. We're not, you know, I really love our Parks Committee, because they are really making those decisions and bringing forward their plans to the city council, instead of city council micromanaging those groups that are really invested and closest to that. City council is closest to roads. There's no one who wants to raise their hand and be on a committee, a volunteer committee to help the roads. You know what I mean? That's our responsibility. And I feel like if we can continue to support that, and that 5-year planning, and having a little bit of discretionary to be responsible or respond to some of our citizens, I don't know if we can do that. What do you think?
I guess the way I've been observing it is that we sell a parcel of land and people are like, what'd you do with money? Well, it went for roads. Well, it didn't go to my road. I don't see where it went. There's no tangible result from this land sale. And this would be one way to address that.
I know, or having a discretionary fund within that to address things that are we just can't manage in our regular budget cycle. When we create a budget, we're forecasting, like, we don't know if that's where we're gonna arrive.
So-
We'll be close, yeah.
So would you be suggesting, like, rather than saying designated for roads or for land, some other kind of discretionary fund?
I think the use of the word discretionary fund is probably not what I meant to say. I just meant allocating within the roads budget for smaller projects that are of immediate need to our community citizens. That may be outside the scope and sequence of the 5-year plan. We don't want to keep pulling back from our long-term plans. It's a thought. Thank you.
I'm not against roads. Nobody is.
I
Oh, no. It's just like, I think our road signs, the few we got, weren't they, I wasn't on the council, I think it was 35,000 for just a few the few that we got. I mean, and, you know, the new ones. That money for
yeah.
roads is like planning for a wedding. It doesn't go very far.
However, but when you do, hopefully like a wedding, it lasts forever.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's a drop in that, such a small amount. We're given, I don't know.
Well, I defer to the
It's
rest
just
of the
a-
council.
yeah.
And Lanny, thank you for bringing that up, because I agree. I think our citizens are asking
I
for,
got a
like, where
question.
that's going.
Yeah.
Never mind, he just left. I'll just wait and ask him another time. Anybody else on this one? No?
Let's get to the budget projects.
Mr. Bradford?
So, the city manager and myself wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming budget process. So I'm gonna cover kind of our budget calendar, just so everybody's aware of kind of the process. And then, the city manager, I think, is gonna go over some goal setting. Laura, could you get that word over here? You just click on- there we go. So, we're in January already, 2025. So, last week you got the state of the street reports, which I think was very useful to kind of bring council up to speed on the plan and how the backstory works and all of that. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the upcoming budget, a little bit of an overview and the budget calendar. Some of this is an internal document as well, and it's not just for the public. So at the end of January, I do some work in the background and get information to the department head, so it makes it easier for them to submit their budget requests. February is pretty much, and March is pretty much for me all budget all the time. There will probably be discussing budget priorities on the February 4th meeting after the city manager gets the input, which I'll talk about. And then internally, the budget requests are due to me on February 25th, and then we go into March. I get final taxable value estimates from the assessor. We get the DDA budget, and then we spend 3 pretty intensive days as department heads going through and balancing the budget as best we can with the city manager's input, because the requests always exceed the revenues. Can you scroll down just a little bit, Bill?
Yes.
And then city council gets the budget at the end of March, and then April is council's month to go through the budget, make any changes, have presentations, that sort of thing. By charter, we're supposed to adopt the budget by no later than May 15th. We typically try to do it a week ahead of that, so we have some time in case there's something else that needs to come up. So that's identical to what we've done for years and years and years, basically, in terms of a process. So just wanted council to kind of be aware of that. Just a couple things I see preliminarily that are going to be some challenges in the budget. We've had, with the COVID relief dollars and then the high taxable value due to the high inflation the last couple of years, we've had a lot of revenue, more than we've seen in a very long time, and that's slowing down. But yet the needs are still going to be coming in. And we filled a lot of pent-up demand for services and increases in the budget the last couple of years in terms of staffing and in terms of just some projects. And so I think this is going to be a more difficult budget process is what I guess I'm trying to prep council for. And we're still very early on, but I can just see that from my experience that that's probably going to be the case. As you know, inflation is still tending to go up for commodities and for construction projects and things like that. So just kind of a heads up, but that's the process, that's the calendar. And then the city manager is going to talk a little bit about getting some input from council for council priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Just, so this is, last year, we had the council budget priorities. We had council give their top 3, and it was weighted, so a council member's number 1 priority was given 3 points, their second was giving 2 points, and then their third was 1 point, so that's how these were, that's how this document was produced. The couple things this year coming up, so our waste hauling contract with Republic is expiring. This is our 3rd 5-year contract. We're working on an RFP document to put that out. Yeah, it's expiring June 30th. The other thing is we are mandated by Eagle to do curbside recycling twice a month, starting in January 1st, 2026. So we'll be getting a quote from that. So that's kind of an unknown, what those bids are going to come back, what that cost is going to be. You see the top priority Last year was public safety fire vehicles. This year we were looking at a couple things. There was a GEMT bill, which was emergency transport. It was a reimbursement from Medicaid bill that actually passed, so the city would get additional reimbursement for Medicaid transports. We were kind of focusing on our support for that legislation passing, so that's good news. The state's still going to have to implement that, so that could be a few months, but we were also working on a fire district. There was new legislation that allowed municipalities to create a fire district that didn't have to, so if we wanted to include part of a township, we could do that now as opposed to including the entire township. So we can actually carve out a district. And then we were looking at that to kind of, as a potential way to address equipment needs in the area and kind of allocate equipment in the most efficient manner. So that was kind of one thing we were really working on this year, and Tom's been kind of leading the charge with talking to different groups about that. We have facilities, the waterworks that we were not able to apply for a SHPO grant because it's not on the National Historic Registry. So ever since the Historic Society moved out of there, that's been a building that we've been looking, what to do with. We also, the lighthouse, we're fortunate that the Splica Group is interested in taking on that for tours. We'll have that on a council agenda coming up. We also have the Chamber Economic Development contracts up at the end of the year, of the fiscal year, and same with Housing North, so we'll have to address that. And lastly, kind of, these are just some topics, but the DDA Streetscape, that one's coming together. We had some money budgeted 2026 in our capital improvement, major streets. It looks like there's an opportunity with a RAP grant to participate sooner, so that'll be coming before council. But there's some moving pieces, some new things come up, so we just want everyone to be aware of, there's, like the curbside site recycling mandate. We'll have to address that in this budget. So those are just an overview. So I'd like to propose if council could do the same as we did last year and provide their top 3 budget priorities. I'd like to have that by Friday, January 31st, and then I can provide that to the department heads when they're preparing their budgets. So with that, if there's any questions about the budget process, but there'll be plenty of time to talk in future meetings about different items as well.
Okay. Bill, I'm sorry.
No,
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask, what happens before January 31st? I was writing and I just want to make
Oh, I
sure.
apologize. Yes, so we'd ask that you provide your top 3 budget priorities. So if it was roads, and then you'd rank them in order of your personal, so you'd send that, and then just send that directly to me.
Okay.
Just in an email to you?
An email, yes. Thank you.
What was the date you wanted them by?
January 31st, so give you a couple weeks to think about it.
And we're using these same priorities, or we can kind of think about priorities that have been in our districts and what we've heard from our
Absolutely.
constituents?
So, and I'll just preface this with, there was a variety of items that we did categorize different comments, because they were just kind of various inputs, and then it was, consolidated to these categories.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Bill, can you send us a copy of these priorities so we can compare them?
Yes. And we'll also send you kind of the list of what was provided last year
Right.
outside of this before the consolidation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, Ms. Rosga, do you have anything else? Mr. Grabowski?
Bill, did you ever send out any more, remember we asked for 3 lists of garbage collectors,
Bids?
and I think Mason County was one. The county people gave us their address or told us about those. People were a little bit cheaper than what Republic is. We were going to get the three estimates.
Estimates. We're working on an RFP document together that I don't have. The RFP process will get those.
I know we got the Republic one, but We never got one from other companies.
Yeah, we'll have to go through a formal bid process for that.
Did you ever get a copy of House Bill 4722? That's the one on the short-term rental. Did that ever pass, or did they throw it out? I haven't heard nothing on it.
I wasn't aware of it passing. I can take a look and provide an update where that's at.
I mean, I can run it through the computer too. I thought maybe you had it.
Yeah, I'll follow up with that.
You good, Jim? Okay, Ms. Keck?
Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
I just wanted to say, great news on the EDA approving all of that work, and thanks for letting us know. I thought it would take weeks and weeks, and it was days and days, so must have been really well put together to have that accepted so quickly. Just excited about the budget process, and I had no idea we had so many different contracts with so many different entities. It's really exciting to be part of that collective. So, thank you.
Ms. Lasky?
Just one idea that came about from people, and that was, a lot of people, the meetings, this one was well attended, but a lot of them are not well attended, and people are hesitant to stand up at the meetings. And they suggested like having coffee with a council person, and like two people, and just trying it. It may take a few months, but see if anybody comes. Like Trophies has that room adjacent to their coffee shop, and just 10 o'clock coffee and just a chance to have a informal, just an informal gathering, if anybody, and it was suggested by a couple people in different districts, so I thought that too might be a good idea. And they suggested two councilmen at a time, and just see if it would work, if there'd be any interest in
How
that.
often would that be? Like once a month, once every 2 months?
Some do it once a month. We could do it every other month just to try it, and just see if try it a few months. I mean, the first month you might not get anyone, but, you know, even with the flyer, wherever you're gonna hold it, if it was Port City or, you know, and the city does a good job on their Facebook and on Kelly does a good job on getting information out, so.
Newsletter.
In the newsletter, so, or even a little blurb in the paper, you know, so I think we could, just an idea if anybody's interested.
Seems like a good idea to me.
Yep.
It's probably worth a try.
Yeah.
Or meet a council member and supervise recess. That could, that'd be super fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Meet the kids, the future
Yeah.
taxpayers.
yeah.
We have that second floor conference room. If you're not at recess, you could meet at the conference. So, yeah, wherever.
Anything else? No. Okay, we are adjourned.
Oh, and Wes, do we want to,
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about Wes.
Wes, any comments?
Yeah, nope.
Sorry,
No,
Wes.
just good
Oh,
conversation
gosh, I forgot he was
and,
there.
good to
Laura
hear.
reminded me.
I'm all set for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.
May be there every week.